3, 2, 1, now. Welcome to another installment of the Cool Kids Table. YouTube, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, the Cool Kids Table podcast. Twitter, the Cool Kids Pod. You can find all the episodes on the website, thecoolkidstablepodcast.com. My guest today is, I'm going to say it wrong, Anika Rouf from Sydney, Australia. So this is my first out-of-country guest. Thank you, Zoom. I know you've been kind of douche lately. Zoom has been killing it with these podcast episodes. Anika is a dietitian from Sydney. She uses social media to like reach, not her clientele, but say like I'll let her say it in the episode because I'm kind of like, don't want to give her the wrong introduction. I want to give her the proper introduction she deserves. So I'll just say a few of her accolades. She has a bachelor's in Biomedical Sciences and a master's in nutrition and dietetics. So we're going to talk about that and just kind of see how she does it, especially being from a different country, being from a different, a different norm that I'm sure most of the listeners will be intrigued by, like how they do things differently. As many of us know, myself included, and I don't learn from it, but we have a terrible diet here in the US. And what she does is she works not with kids per se, but it's like about educating the children, like at an early age and making like lifestyle changes, not just like short-term changes, but actually doing it at an early age so that it becomes a habit into adulthood as opposed to just, picking it up for like I don't know what the word is, like part-time, I'm not sure, like a resolution type is in here. Anika, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Okay. Hi, Anika. And my guest today is Anika Rouf, all the way from Sydney, Australia. Thank you for joining me. If you don't mind, I didn't want to butcher your intro, so I just kind of went soft on it. If you could tell the audience a little bit something about yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Hector. Something about myself. Well, I'm a dietitian by background, and I've just sort of finished my PhD. And then now I currently work across 3 roles. So that involve research and teaching.
Awesome. And how did you get into that?
Into research. So I started my research pretty soon, well, actually straight after I finished my master's. So I did a master's in nutrition and dietetics, and as part of that, there was a semester of research you had to do. So during that, I had this amazing supervisor, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. And then I had some PhD students who helped me at the time, and they were just like, they were telling me about their PhD, and I was like, I wonder what it'd be like to do a PhD. So then, they were like, oh, you should apply. So the applications that were sort of going around at that time. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And then, I ended up getting in, and then I was like, okay, let's do it. So, yeah.
And real quick, shout out to social media. I actually found you on Instagram from the page Women Doing Science, which is, shout out to them. And I saw yours, and I was like, oh, shit, like, this is pretty cool. Like, let me see if she'd be interested in coming on. And then I saw that you use social media to incorporate what you do. So how does that work, or how does that go about?
Yeah, it's really interesting how the role of social media has played in my life, because like back when before starting my PhD, I was just like this sort of introvert person who wasn't on, like, I'd had social media, but it was like a private account. I would only had like my friends on it, so it was nothing public. And I hated the thought of going public with with having my face on things, or even posting my food pictures or anything like that. So after starting my PhD, because it was looking at how social media, could potentially improve eating habits, that's what it was focusing on. I sort of thought, you know, maybe I could get out there, test the waters, and see how young adults actually perceive social media, because we know most of the users of majority of users on social media are young adults, particularly on Instagram, and that's the platform that I mainly use. So then I slowly mustered the courage to open my Instagram account. That was back in 2017, and I was still quite shy. So if anyone scrolls back to my old post, they'll just see that, you know, it was just me posting my food pictures, and and there was like barely any pictures of me. And I think the ones I posted was like a back shot, like back shots only, or like a very like far away shot. So people used to be like, oh, why don't you post your face? You know, like I only see your back shots and that sort of thing. So it really took me a long time to kind of get out of, like, you know, that shy zone I was in to now. So, and I think my PhD has played a big part in it, because I probably wouldn't have been on social media otherwise.
Really, that's interesting, because you have quite a following. I mean, I was looking through your page. You have pretty good content, and then like you're informing the followers, I guess, you know, the public. So I guess that's how, I don't know how fast you grew your following, but it's quite impressive. To traditionally, you know, a dietitian wouldn't have many followers. You get me? So to see that, it must be like grassroots movement where people are following you for that reason, which is pretty interesting on, you know, from this side to see something like that. Like, cool. Because, you know, most of the time people are following the wrong pages, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The food pages where it's like, look at
Detox
this.
diets, or
Yeah.
like the bloggers who post about the teas that are going to help you lose, you know, this many kilos or pounds in certain days.
Exactly. So that's why I'm telling you, I was intrigued by it. And, you know, just kind of, I'd rather not, you know, give the audience a chance to look through it themselves, but just kind of on a day-to-day level, like what is it that you do, kind of like, not to get the followers, I mean, but just in your life as far as your work or your research?
Yeah, so with my Instagram, the growth that I have now, it has definitely been like it's been a roller coaster ride, and I didn't sort of have much growth at the beginning, and to be honest, like growth wasn't something that I was chasing. I think I just sort of wanted to like interact with people. Like I enjoyed meeting other dietitians when I started in 2017. That was the year I started. So that year it was pretty much me meeting other dietitians, and also doing some food photography. That's the kind of other reason why I came on, because I really liked doing food photography. I wasn't good. I'm still not that great, but for some reason I really liked doing it. So I recently got an SLR at the time, and I was like, okay, well, let's just, you know, try it out, try and post some nice pictures. So that was nice. And then I think my photography has obviously sort of evolved over time. I think I am a lot better now since like compared to back in, like, you know, 2017, so 3 years ago. So that's taken time. And to be honest, I don't really plan my content too much. Probably because I don't sort of have a business yet, and it's sort of mostly centered around just, you know, what I'm doing day-to-day life. So I am looking into starting a business, but I'm just sort of waiting to wrap a couple of things up with the projects I'm doing. So maybe once I do that, I will have some planned content, because whenever I kind of listen to people, you know, especially like the podcast, they're always like, you got to plan content, like social media content planning is so important if you want to get, you know, good results, because you have to post consistently. So I'm not so consistent. I sort of just like do it here and there. I do try to be at least post at least 3 times a week, but obviously a lot of people do, you know, a lot more. So people who have I guess put in a lot more effort, but for me it's still a side hustle, so I don't do as much.
And I think more than the saying is true, quality over quantity. You know, if you're putting 7 so posts a week, just keep it good, and then they'll find it. Like, obviously they found you. In my experience, I just try to post questions more than anything. Like, even if it's like a post or like I really enjoy stories, because I'll put like, what do you think of this? And then everybody has an opinion. So they'll just at least in my experience, they'll just hit me whatever. I'll post a picture of something and it'll be thoughts, and then they'll reach out to me in that way. And they'll tell me, are you going to talk about this on the episode? I'm like, no, this is just background. In the future, this issue might come up and I'll have differing opinions because I have my opinion. And then me and you had this conversation where we could discuss our ideas, and then maybe my thoughts don't change, but at least I have the thought of somebody else's opinion in there. And at least for me, that's what's worked, engagement with them, because a lot of times you'll just see people just post and post and post, and yet their picture has like 5 likes, and you're like, what's the point of putting 6 pictures a week when there's nobody's talking to you, nobody's interacting with you? It does take some time though. I now I'm doing better at it. Like I'm scheduling, like, okay, I will spend 30 minutes every other day responding to messages, because it'll get overwhelming, especially once you start engaging and people see that you engage with them. It's kind of bad because they want to send you more stuff. They start sending you links. What do you think about this? And it's like, oh man, you're not the only one sending. So it's a good problem to have, I would say.
Yeah, I love that, Hector, that like what you said about engagement, and that certainly took me a long time to learn as well, because like when I started like in 2017, I didn't know that you have to engage with people to kind of, the level that you have to. So for me, I would just like post pictures, and like I didn't really like, maybe I would reply back to the people who commented, but then sometimes I wouldn't really do it, sort of in a quick manner, or I wouldn't really go and check out other people's as much like content as I do now. So I think obviously with Instagram, it's a great platform to share your work, but there's a give and take component to it. So that's something I didn't realize back then, and I was sort of just doing my own thing, and I'm just like posting, sort of very casually. And then I think slowly I learned that you actually have to interact with people who comment on your page, and then also getting back to the DMs. That's something I still struggle with. I think a lot of the times people DM me, and especially when it's like an outsider who you haven't talked to, it sits in a separate kind of space. So I try and sort of check that daily now. But DMs are definitely, that's something I struggle to keep up, because like you said, they'll then once you have a conversation, you're kind of just talking to them, and then you're spending more time in there, which no one can see that you're interacting, whereas you're not posting as much content. So really hard to get the balance right.
It's all about balance. For right now, at least these past 2 weeks, I've had to schedule like, okay, I'll spend 30 minutes of this every other day, because you say, oh well, it's just one message, but then by the time you reply to the 7th person, the first person's replying to you, and it's just like, I can't do this all day. And like you said, I want to do the show. I want to schedule people to come on. And I'm glad that you didn't ignore my message, because it's good to have you on. But, just kind of
glad I picked up my skills.
and so, like you said, balance. It might not work in the future for me. I might have to cut down more or engage more. But just as of right now, I'm like, I like how things are working. And people kind of realize, I'm not replying every minute, and it's cool, because you get to kind of sometimes think about the questions, because if they send you something, you kind of gotta reply right away, because if you give it 10 minutes thoughts, that means that you're not doing anything for 10 minutes. Or so, I mean, it's all about balance. I'm sure in a month I'll say, no, I got to cut it down to 10 minutes a day or whatever it may be, because it's cool to have those things there. But at the same time, you still got to be productive with your own time, because like you said, it's behind the scenes work. And that's why I tell people there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into this, because that's why people listen. Because then sometimes I'll say their story or whatever, their little opinion they had, or somebody told me this, and then they'll hear it and they'll message me like, hey, that was so cool. That was me. And I'm like, yeah, that was. But then I still got to go out and do my own reading, do my own writing, do my own jogging, do my own whatever I have to do, as part of my whole 24 hours, which is the behind the scenes work doesn't get enough credit. You'll vouch for that, because you'll see as your page grows, you'll see how to keep it intact.
Yeah, it's definitely the struggle is real. Like, we only have 24 hours, and we obviously want to have enough, time for sleep and self-care and things like that. And social media can suck up so much time. Like, I didn't maybe realize this in the past, because maybe I did, but I had a really long commute to get to my uni. So, like I would spend most of it on my phone. So when I came back home, I didn't have to do as much. Whereas I think now, I'm at home all the time in quarantine, and I'm just like, if I sit on my phone a whole, like, it's like half an hour is gone or the whole hour is gone. And it's like, I haven't done any work.
Yeah, I'm not being productive. Even though you're essentially being productive, it doesn't feel like if you're sitting behind a desk on a computer. Sometimes I feel like I'm reading the same article I was reading on my phone, but I'm sure it looks and it feels like I'm productive because I'm behind the laptop. Whereas it's the same article and it's easier to read here than to be squinting at my laptop, but it's just the appearance of it.
Yeah, definitely. What I've sort of found helpful, I think it's similar to you, what you were saying, like was kind of blocking out time. And I'm trying to do that a bit more now. So like I would maybe like, since I don't post every day, I post like about 3 times a week now. And that's the sort of level I thought is okay, because if I try and post every day, I won't have enough time to kind of interact with people. So I've told myself I'll do it 3 times a week. And then the other days I'll try and engage with comments, with messages, any sort of try and do some Q&As or any other things, and focusing on stories as well, because I think like you were saying, Insta stories are where the game is at right now. People are watching stories a lot more than engaging in actual feed content.
That's crazy, but I see that. I see how many people look at my story, and then I see how many likes a picture gets. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, and then I get more interactions. Like I'll post anything. I'll post something in the story and I'll get 20, 30, 40 replies. And then I'll post and I'll get 2 comments with no DMs, no nothing. And I'm like, doesn't make sense. But that's why I started posting more and more stories. Just I'm like, okay, this will build the interaction. And it's not a big audience, but it's a loyal audience. Like they'll listen to every episode. They'll listen to past episodes when I don't release. So it's kind of working for me in the meantime, but I know as the show grows, it's going to be kind of hard to keep up with everybody, because that's what makes it kind of relatable, where they can tell me, they'll have disagreement with me or the guest, and they'll message me saying, hey, I don't think, and then it's kind of engaging that I'll take the time to speak with them. But then I'm like, dude, I can't do this with every single person that replies. And that, I don't know, last episode, the one before this, me and my friend were talking about the haters. I don't know if you get any type of hate mail or hate messages or that type of thing, but it's kind of, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just trying to do this show. Like, I don't need this extra stuff. So that's just another topic, but I don't wish that upon
Yeah, the
anybody.
haters. It really is. For me, it happens when I post like anything to do with meat. For some reason, my audience doesn't, I guess, react well to meat. And I think the reason for that is I talk about like, having a plant-based diet, which a lot of people mistake for being purely vegetarian. So that became a problem, because I used to use the hashtags for hashtag plant-based, and then someone's like, oh, hey, why do you have a fish in there? Like I actually got someone comment, like, saying something around like, why do you have, 2 salmon pieces there? This is, this is not vegan or whatever. And then I think I may have replied back, but then eventually I kind of, after a couple of rounds, I ended up deleting that completely, because I was like, you know what? I don't need that in my life. Let's just delete it and get that closure.
That's one of my sayings. I don't need this in my life, man.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I get a DMs more than anything. Like when I post something, just, it's okay to have a disagreement, but when you start attacking the person, I'm like, you don't even know me, dude. Like, the fuck? And then sometimes I'll engage. I'm sorry, but I fucking do it. I did it like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? You know? And then I was like, Hector, you can't be doing this, because they're gonna keep doing it because they want that reaction. So lately I've been good, but a month ago I had a hiccup, and I was like, dude, the fuck are you talking about? And just kind of went off on this person. I was like, you know what? That's not a good look. I shouldn't be doing this. So I just kind of, I try to compose myself, but then I'm like, I should read these when I'm in a good state of mind. 'Cause, you're having a bad day, you read that shit, and you're like,
It just, yeah, and you
not
just have, it's
today.
hard, yeah, like you have this urge to reply back, because you know that what you're doing is not wrong. So you just want to be like, want to write back to them. But yeah, I think the key is to know when to stop. I think they do probably, I mean, some people might delete them straight away, but I think for me, I like to put a reply to it first, and then obviously wait for a little bit to let the person maybe see it. And then if it continues to go on, and then I'll just delete it. So yeah,
That's
but
good.
I do have that urge to
Yeah.
write.
Try to control it, because I'm not scared of it, but just the repercussions. They're gonna screenshot you and try to make you look bad. That's what I say to myself. Like, dude, they're just trying to catch you in that moment, so they could screenshot and share. Look at this guy. Look what he said to me, but not knowing what they sent to you. You know, because they'll go back and delete their message, and then you look like you're just fucking cussing them out for no reason. So I was like, don't fall for that trap. So I'm kind
Oh
of
yeah. No, I do try and keep it. I don't say anything offensive. Like I'll just reply back politely. And after I've had my rage inside, like
you're,
I'll just say something.
you're a better
Yeah.
person than me, because I'll snap too. Because they come at me wrong. And I'm like, dude, it's because you find your fucking phone screen. You know, you wouldn't say that to a person in real life. So why would you say it to me?
I know. I think that's the issue with social media. Like, there's all these hate comments going on for pretty much no matter what sort of content you post. And I think it's just, I think people are meaner on social media. Like, you wouldn't say those things to someone face to face. Why say it? Why type it?
It's crazy. Like, it really is. But I mean, enough on that. Let's not make it a negative episode. I want to
Yeah,
drag you into my mud.
true.
So
Let's stick to the positives, because that's,
yeah,
I think there was, the majority, like I would say 99% of the people or even more actually, I've had like interactions I've had are positive. So yeah.
same. But it's that 1%, that
Yeah.
0.01% that sticks out. The one that you not stay up at night, but you just think about, like. And one thing I've been trying to keep in mind is, like, you're not gonna make everybody happy. Like, everybody that listens to, they might not like you for whatever reason. They're not gonna like me, and that's just deal with it. You know, kind of like, you're not gonna please everybody, but please the people that are constantly listening to this. Keep them happy. I'm like, so control what I can, but it's just, there is those days. You know, you have a bad day, you come on, and you're like, I'm gonna interact with the people today, and then boom, staring at you in the face is like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, whoa, who am I to take that? You know, so. But let's get back on track. And I don't want to come in and be like, hey, you know, what should I do? One of the reasons which I reached out to you was because I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I'm trying to teach her, you know, not like no sugary drinks. You know, when you snack vegetables and fruit, especially, you know, she loves fruit. So like, when we make dinner, there's always a nice green, you know, either a salad or some broccoli, trying to incorporate these things so that she starts making these habits without really knowing that she's eating healthy. Just, of course, you know, we'll have the fried chicken here and there. We're Mexican, so we eat tortillas like crazy. So just kind of like, it doesn't have to completely change her life, but at least teaching her early on to be better prepared for the future, you know, for her life than I was for mine, if that makes sense. So how are you, as your, not your profession, but how would you say, like, what are the things we could teach our children or adolescents or the young people listening? How do you start that change, and how would you do it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I love that you're working, to kind of develop good habits, because like a lot of the research shows that it's good to develop habits young, because that way you can carry them throughout the rest, like your adulthood and so forth. And that's one of the reasons I loved kind of having my research area being in young adults, because whatever they have, hopefully if they pick up some good habits, they can carry that throughout their life. I think the important thing to teach children, or teach, I guess, toddlers, or when they're really young, is to kind of not have foods, not have the concept of good foods versus bad foods. I think that can really kind of create, I guess, real sort of negative connotations to I guess certain foods. So they shouldn't really like saying that chocolate is bad for you. Then rather than saying that, you could just say something like chocolate is something that you should be having sometimes. So just having that I guess foods that you should have like all the time or most of the time, and then foods that you should have sometimes. Like I know a lot of the people, especially like adults nowadays, you may actually know this. There's a pattern, like there's this talk on social media that it's called clean eating. I'm sure you've heard it.
Yeah.
So you know, a lot of the people will be like, you know, like I'm eating clean, you know, and that means, you know, eating blah blah blah, maybe like no chocolate or that sort of thing. But like, I guess what we need to question is that can that person really go without chocolate for 7 days or whatever, how many days they want to go without, and is that really necessary? I think it's just having that concept of, you know, clean eating versus, I'm not real, no such thing as dirty eating, but I'm just saying, you know, clean versus dirty. There shouldn't be such, you know, black and white. I think we should be able to sort of incorporate foods that, you know, we love, like, you know, things like chocolate, cake, every day, like or like whenever we want to, in a small quantities, rather than being like, you know what, that's bad for me, I'm not having that, and then going without that food for many days, trying to, and then you end up craving it so much, and then one day you just open the pantry and or the fridge, and you're just like, you know what, I give up going for it. So I think food restrictions can really be something that that can really have a negative sort of impact on people's health, and also, like, I guess like also on their mental health as well, because you just it doesn't feel good to restrict. You just it can set up a really sort of bad I guess eating sort of so not, I wouldn't say a really disorder, but more sort of like I guess this so what's, just trying to think of the right word, just I guess disordered eating, like it sets up disordered eating, and that which can lead to eating disorders in the long run. But yeah.
What I read not too long ago was just changing the mindset of like, I can't have chocolate or chocolate cake or a chocolate bar to I shouldn't. It makes a world of difference, because like it's there, you can have it if you want, but should I? And then that's what I've been kind of trying to do with her. I don't know if you guys have hot Cheetos in Australia, but she loves hot Cheetos, and it's just like, so I'll try to, if I buy a bag for her, which is rare, like I'll separate it like into 3 smaller portions. She'll be like, oh, I can eat the whole thing. I'm like, I know you can, but should you? She's like, and even though she's 4 going on 5, she's very kind of already like, what should I eat? I'm like, well, I'd rather you eat an apple, and then if you're still hungry, you can have some chips. She'll be like, okay, let's eat an apple and let's see. So me and her will not share one, but have our own. And then she'll grab the Cheetos, and then she'll be like, I'm full. And I'm like, see, if you would have ate this first, you would have had the apple. And I'm just trying to, just giving her the option, like, you can have it, but should you? Because, granted, the day she goes to middle school, you could buy the chips, you could buy the soda at any vending machine. And I know at that age, I wasn't making the right decisions. I would skip lunch and have a bag or 2 of these chips that I'm trying not to get her to eat, and have a soda as my lunch, So that's what I'm trying to avoid. Just be like, she should make better decisions going forward. Not to, because I made the wrong decision, but just kind of like, I didn't know better, but now I do. So she should have that same information to her, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love what you like, the sort of messages you've been passing on to her, and I think that's a great, what you're saying is a great way to kind of get children to think about if that's something they really want. Because I think sometimes, or most, maybe a lot of the times, kids are like, if you tell them not to do something, if you tell them not to have something, then they'll be like, that's exactly what I want.
Same
Whereas
with adults.
yeah,
look
even
at the
with
look at the
adults
quarantine. Look at the quarantine. They don't want to stay inside.
yeah, they want to go out. It's like yeah, that's yeah, I think for most people really that's the case. So I think it's good that good to sort of get them to think about if that's something they want, or at the time, or just say, I think sometimes even telling people that yes, they can have it, but maybe just give it a couple of minutes, or eat if they're if that's if they're really hungry, is it really going to be satisfying their hunger? For example, like you said, having an apple first is going to make them fuller, and then they might have lesser of the Cheetos. Whereas I think if they're really hungry and they start only eat the Cheetos, they might end up eating a lot more. So I think it's also important to question, like, I guess, the reason they want to eat, and I think for adults this is probably not a case, and I think A lot of times we tend to eat because we just bored, you know, like especially I think nowadays at home in quarantine, I get a lot of messages from people like I've been overeating, and you know, it's just because I'm at home and whatever. So I think it happens to people at work sometimes, or you know, when they're home, they're just bored, they just want to eat. So I think it's also important to question why is it that they're eating? Is it because they're truly hungry, or is it just because they're, I guess, hungry, I guess, at a kind of emotional level, or just feel like sometimes it's stress eating as well. So I think it's really important to question why they're picking the food, and I think that kind of helps them to take a step back sometimes and be like, okay, maybe I don't need that now because I'm actually full.
Okay, great answer. And so this is just from my point of view, right? And then I read something that's actually, I don't know, that I didn't verify, I don't know if it's true or not, but I read this online. I love ice cream personally. That's like my kryptonite.
Me too.
I love ice cream.
Especially
And
in summer.
yes, year round, but especially in summer. And that's something that I see that my daughter loves too. Like she'll be like, before the pandemic, can we go for ice cream? And I was never one of those people to just drive for ice cream. I'd always have ice cream at home type of thing. Not eat it all in one day, but just have it there so it's always ready. One of my quotes is, if you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. So with ice cream, it was always ready. And my daughter, same thing, you know, she'd be like, can we go get some ice cream? And we just have a little ice cream date, you know, a scoop, and just have a great talk and have our ice cream. And then it became where I was like, we're almost getting ice cream too much. I'm starting the bad habit with her. So I started doing it as a reward. Like, hey, you continue to do good. She was already in preschool. If you continue to do good, Friday after class, after I get off work, we'll go for ice cream. So it became like a reward. But then people started telling me and reading online that the reward system for food is terrible. I don't know how you feel about it. That's what I kind of want to ask, because don't quote me on this, but then they trigger it like as a, when I do something good, I should get something good. And so that example being school was good, so she gets ice cream. In other areas, she'll be like, wow, I don't know. And so let's say she's playing a sport when she's a little older. I should get a reward for this, not just mentally, like as far as like I deserve something every time, but as a, I need something to verify that I did it good because you rewarded me with ice cream. So now they're gonna look for that in different types of food. Like, oh, every time, you know, I hit a home run or I scored a goal, we got in and out, or we had ribs or whatever it may be. So from what I was reading was like, don't do this because you're gonna shoot them down the wrong way. And I was just kind of like, oh damn, unknowingly. So I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that. But is that something that's real, or is that just kind of like internet lore?
Such a great point you've raised, Hector. And to be honest, I don't actually know the right answer. I mean, I have read like similar things to you about, you know, setting up, doing food rewards and things, not being that beneficial. But I think there's also some good, like pros to it as well. So I don't know. I think how I see it is that it's okay to have some rewards related to food, because, you know, like I think, as kids, well, sometimes even adults, I think we kind of work on a reward system. So sometimes, you know, even like I'll set up rewards for myself and be like, okay, you know, I want to get this done and I'm going to go for a walk. And I'm going to take that break for myself for half an hour or whatever. So I think rewards are good because it encourages you. So I don't think rewards should be, you know, not that kind of be eliminated completely, but I think it's important to sort of mix it up. So mixing up food rewards versus non-food rewards. And I think some non-food rewards could be like, you know, going to watch a movie, going to play a game that you both love, whether it's a board game or, you know, game outdoors, or something like doing something that you enjoy together, like painting, maybe going shopping for, you know, clothes or something. So I think it's important to sort of mix it up and not have food all the time. And I think even if you, when you do have food, maybe you could sort of mix it up between, you know, foods like ice cream that you both love, but also something else like that you might like. For example, you know, doing some cooking together. something else, maybe like a savory dish that you both like the family enjoys, doing some cooking, or even putting a platter together. Trying to think of like other sort of foods that could be, I guess, like having sort of healthier foods, and also those treats as well. So that way, rewards aren't just about foods, like they're not just about chocolate, they're not just about ice cream, they're about a lot of other things, including, the good stuff, like the foods that are, I guess, good for you versus, the ones we enjoy, and also other things, other activities as well.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. And this isn't like a Q&A, but I was really intrigued by that. I was like, okay, she said yes, so I gotta have something ready just so, I don't know what the proper thing is. Like, I want to showcase your skills kind of thing. Like, and then that way that's also informing me and the audience as well. I'm sure they're gonna be like, oh, good. Because, as parents, we worry about our kids. We want to teach them the right things. And I know I'm making mistakes. I'm doing my best, but I'm sure there's some bad habits that I have that she'll probably pick up on. So that's enough on its own. So why add to her future struggles when I could start teaching her at this age? Like, hey, look, yeah, we have In-N-Out, but we don't have this every day. Yeah, we might, I don't know, have ice cream every other Friday, but it's not like you don't I don't know, like the parenting aspect of it is what I'm sure many people listening will be like, this is good information to have. But where do we go as a society with so much information, so much, like you said, the clean eating? Then there's a new fad diet. I fell for it, or I mean, it was working for me at least. I was doing keto to start off this year,
Oh
and
yes, keto, yeah.
I was loving it. People were like, "You're really doing that?" Like, people were like, "I'm Mexican, right?" So they're like, "Those aren't tacos," because I was using cheese shell. I'm like, dude, they're so good. And then the tortillas are like 150 calories each, and they come double tortillas. So I'm like, if I have 4 of these, that's 12. Wait, let me do my math right there. Yeah, 300 times 4, yeah, they're 1,200 calories in just a tortilla. And with cheese, it's like very, very small compared to that. And everybody's like, well, no, it's just a trend. And I'm always very skeptical as well. So I'm like, let me just try this for a few weeks and let me see how it goes. That with a balanced diet, but keto style, and running maybe 3 times a week, I lost like 10 pounds right away. Now, like, I can't say it works for everybody, but it's doing great for me. And other people, like, I tried it and I gained weight, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. So what can we do not as a society, but then as individuals? Because there's so much information. I remember growing up hearing about Slim Fast and the Atkins diet. And then OMAD diet is one of the new ones, eating 1 time a day. I did that for a few days, and it was with the keto, 1 big keto meal a day, I lost like another 4 pounds in a week. So I was like, this is working. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh no, I don't know if it's working, because I've stopped all of that. I'm still running, but just recently I started. So how do we put it plainly? There's so much bullshit out there. How do we know what's real and what's not?
Yeah, there's so much noise out there. It's crazy. And I think people, like, if I think about people, back in before we had technology like this, social media or the internet as much, I think people kind of had information, had limited information, which I guess was kind of somewhat good in a way, because they didn't have to sort of, I guess, there wasn't so much conflicting evidence, whereas now, someone on Instagram might be telling you that, oh, this detox tea is really good for you, if in 14 days you're going to lose this much, whereas if you're following a dietitian or someone, they might be talking about, someone else might be talking about how those bad diets or detox teas don't work. So there's so much, I guess, conflicting sort of message, and I think that's really hard for people to kind of, I guess, know. So I think the people, I guess, they really need to know what's, I guess, to follow the right people, or to go and if they are reading on the internet, that's a great place to read. Obviously, reading some of the sources that are more credible, not from a blogger, something that's written by someone that is like an I guess by the government, like sort of like the organization ones, or something that's like a really sort of I guess normal people don't really read journal papers as much, but more sort of, I guess, the dietary guidelines that have been written for general population or updates and things like that. So I think that's probably the thing I would say in terms of, I guess, if they're going to look for messages on their own. And I think it's also a good idea to follow if someone is on social media. It's a good idea to be getting some updates. Like like myself, I as a dietitian get a lot of the updates from social media, because I work in a very kind of small kind of relatively small field, so I can't be keeping up with what's going. There's a lot of research in gut health, for example. I'm not across all of that because I don't work in that space. So so I think it's important to kind of, I guess, stay in touch if you really want to. So follow people who you think are credible, and it's pretty easy to tell. I mean, if you on Instagram, if you follow them, usually it's the ones that have, I guess, like you said at the beginning, I guess a kind of lower amount of followers, or people that will kind of state their credible sort of information, like they will say like a dietitian, or in your case, I think in America you guys call it registered dietitian, so it usually says RD. So in Australia we just call it dietitian, or accredited practicing dietitian, or nutritionist. So for people who you think will be credible and won't be telling you sort of messages that are misleading, or they're saying it because they're getting paid for it, because I think that's what a lot of the
Use my
bloggers
promo
do, like the
code.
ones,
Yeah.
like the ones that are really big, they do it as part of a paid sponsorship with the company.
Use my promo code to receive 20% off your
Yeah.
Herbalife. And like, okay, do you believe in it, or are you just trying to make that commission? But no, man, I'm trying to process all this information, because I'm like, I didn't have it. I had a few kind of questions ready, but I'm like, where else can I go with this? Because you've answered this so eloquently and so dead on that I'm just kind of like, not only am I impressed, but I'm also trying to process information in real time, right? Like, how do I follow this up? Because I feel like just picking your brain and being like, what can we do as like, my listeners are between 25 and 35, like 80% of them are in that age range. So I'm like, when I say me, I'm not being selfish, but just somebody like in my position, when we work 40, 50 hours a week, when you have time to cook, it's not that long, and then so what I've been considering moving forward, once post Corona, is meal prepping, because I just feel
Oh
like
yeah.
that'll be easier on time and then money, and just something that I'm in control of what goes into my body, as opposed to like, it's late, I need to stop by a drive-through and just eat something.
Yeah, meal prep is a big one, I think, and that's something I get questions a lot about, and people, I think, we're always sort of asking for meal prep tips, or like sort of inspo that they would like to follow. So I think I definitely want to go down that space, because I think, like, I post a lot more meal prep content, because as I told you before, like, I don't actually plan it so much. It's just when I'm cooking something and there's nice lighting, it's during the day, I'm like, oh, I'll take a picture. So I don't really kind of plan it and be like, okay, you know what, I'm going to post this for my audience because that's what they've asked for. But I'm trying to sort of take that into account. So I do ask sometimes nowadays, like, what is it that you want to see? And that's meal prep. It's definitely kind of higher up on the list. So I would definitely encourage meal prep for young adults, because like when I sort of did my research, and we did focus groups, and that was really insightful, because we got to sort of chat with young adults, and they're like, nope, we don't have time to cook, we're just sort of on the go lifestyle. And a lot of the times they I think maybe this is for young adults that are in their 20s, like they live in shared accommodations, and that's you're living with your friend, or like you have limited access to kitchen, so they end up getting takeout, or I think these days it's Uber Eats. So it's really hard to sort of, I guess, plan their kind of, I guess, meals. So I think doing meal prep on a Sunday really sort of can set up good habits, because then you don't have to think about what you you know, what you want to eat, like sort of like, oh, you don't sort of have to think that, oh, I have to order Uber Eats because you've got food in your fridge. So I think that can really help. Meal prep is something that I've always done, but I think nowadays with quarantine, because I'm home all the time, I'm cooking a lot more. Like I just cook at home. I don't do the usual meal prep I used to do, but meal prep is something that I've always found to be beneficial.
Okay. And staying on the subject, but not going too away from it. What are your like tips, simple habits that we could start, like tips or recommendations for things like, um, the general, but just something that you believe, like, stay away from sugary drinks, the drink of water and all that, but anything in your personal life that you see that kind of works for people, that works for yourself or the people that you come in contact with?
Yeah, there's probably a few. I'll start with the meal prep one. So I think with meal prep, sometimes I do it both ways, but one way is to kind of do actual dishes. So, you cook up dishes, like, for example, cooking up pasta, couscous, or like have dishes ready to go. So that's one way. And the other way to sort of do it is to kind of have sort of components ready. So, for example, you might sort of bake some pumpkin, have some bake some sweet potatoes, maybe roast the chicken, roast some salmon, have some boiled eggs ready. So you sort of have different components ready, and then that way you don't get bored, because I think a lot of the times people tell me or just think that meal prep is boring because you have to eat the same thing every week, like every day, and that's certainly not the case. So I think for people who like variety, they might benefit from eating, having the components prepared in their fridge. So one day they can have, sweet potato, tuna, and I guess some salad on the side, whereas the other day they can have some roast chicken and then pumpkin. So that way, they don't kind of have to have that same combination and get bored.
Anything
So that,
else?
yeah, that's one meal prep, and I'm sort of thinking about other ones. I think with quarantine, this is kind of going to be a quarantine specific one, but it's something that I've been asked about, so this just sort of comes to mind. A lot of the people, I think, are kind of snacking or kind of eating throughout the day because they're just at home, so they've kind of lost that structure with eating. So I think it's important to maintain that. Even when you're working from home, so having that, having the breakfast that you would normally have, having the snacks at a certain time, those things I think can really help, because I think if you sort of grazing the whole day, you're not fully satisfied at any one point, and you just sort of want to kind of keep on eating. So I think that's another tip, like a quarantine one. The other one would be sort of, again, work related, not to sort of try and keep your food and work separate as much as you can, because I think sometimes when you're eating at your desk, you can sort of turn into kind of eating in a kind of mindless eating mode almost, whereas you just like sort of have, you're eating something like a bag of almonds or whatever it might be, or chips, and you're just sort of snacking without kind of having putting as much thought into what you're actually eating. So that can sort of lead to kind of eating without, I guess, any sort of, I guess, um, meaning almost, because you're just eating because you're purely bored. So I think it's good to kind of think about the reasons why you want to, why you're eating. Sometimes we do get bored, doing the work we do at our desks, and I think that can definitely be solved in other ways. And I think one of the things would be to go outside, get a break, like go for a walk. Sometimes it's also, I think, because we're in quarantine now, it's sort of about breaking up my day with other tasks. Like maybe if I'm bored, I'll just go do the laundry, hang the clothes, that sort of thing, or mop the floor, something like that. So I think it's good to break it up, but food doesn't necessarily have to be that break. Doesn't have to be that thing that breaks it. You can there's other ways to break up your day and the work that you're doing. So that's one.
No, those are good already, especially being quarantine related. I'm like, I don't want to take all your tips. You know, you still got your page and your future business to worry about. So I don't want to be like, hey, come over here. She gave it all away over here.
Yeah, no, that's definitely okay because like before I was speaking of what you said before, I was kind of insecure about sharing a lot of good information on social media. Like I didn't say as much in my posts, and I just thought, oh, if I tell everything to people, no one's going to want to actually, want to come to talk to me. But over time, I realized like that's not the case because, there's so much, to, I guess, things to kind of habits to pick up, right? And even if you hear all of it, you're not necessarily going to be implementing all of it. So I think hearing the good tips, it always kind of inspires people. And then they might be like, okay, maybe I will kind of go see this person, or, follow their page, message them about something. So I think it can definitely set up that interaction. So it doesn't have to be that they kind of be like, okay, I've gotten enough information, don't want anything to do with you. So I think it's positive to share more on in the social media space, because before I used to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be giving everything away.
That's a great thought process, and I'm glad it's working out for you. But yeah, I mean, if you want to give any more, feel free, because I'm sure the listeners will enjoy that. I'm like writing this down mentally. I'm like, okay, because I'm not working from home, but this is my work, and obviously, I can't be eating chips while we're doing this. But while I'm editing, I might go grab, like I said, I try to eat fruit lately. I've been doing great with the fruits and veggies, but there's also Oreos and Chips Ahoy back there. So some days it's Oreos, some days it's Chips Ahoy, and like you said, while you were saying that, I was honestly thinking like sometimes I'll eat like a whole roll of Chips Ahoy. I think it's 6 of them, and I'll be like, oh damn, I already ate them, and without realizing, like I didn't even get the satisfaction of enjoying the Chips Ahoy, if that makes sense. I'm just going through the motion, like I'm hungry, I gotta eat something. It's late, so I'll just snack, and without realizing that I'm actually eating them, if that makes sense. So that's all like maybe it's take a break from this and then eat my fruit or eat my whatever it may be leftovers, and then come back and work on it and actually enjoy the meal, as opposed to just kind of blindly, like blind tastingly take it.
Yeah, I love what you've said there. That was probably the last thing I would have said, which was around like mindful eating. And I think that's the main reason that when you're eating, you don't want to be distracted by your phone. You don't want to be distracted by the work that you're doing, because then you can't really actually taste, as you said, truly enjoy the food that you're having. So I think it's always better to kind of take a step back from work or from your phone and then enjoy that meal, and then go on with your day. But I have to say, for me as well, there are definitely occasions when I've got sort of meetings back to back, and then I'm just like, oh, when do I eat lunch? And it's just kind of got no choice but to kind of have it at my desk. So there are some occasions but I think I do try and kind of make it as minimum as possible.
That's, I mean, cause out here, I have lunch a lot by myself for dinner, just because I work an hour and a half from home. And so it's a long commute. And most of the time I get off late, my friends are doing their own thing. So one thing I started doing is like just not being on my phone, just enjoying my meal. And I look around and everybody's on their phone, like scrolling, be it Instagram, be it Twitter, be it, who knows, New York Times article maybe, but they're just on their phone. And I was like, I like to eat my food like, yeah, I might take a picture to post later type of thing, but I'm not, or to share it, on the stories, but I'm not there on my phone. And so to me, that's kind of I would say, at least for me, like I can separate it, but I know most of the people that I see at a restaurant or whatever, at a takeout spot, everybody's on their phone. And I feel like, I don't know where I was going with that, to be honest, but just like how people can't separate the two things, like even for a meal, like they are on their phone, sometimes their tablet or a computer, or I mean laptop. But how does that, is that an issue, or is that just kind of the times we live in?
Yeah, I think I kind of see that as an issue, but I think that's kind of the problem we have with our generation, and I think I'm certainly guilty of doing it too. Like, my people who are older than me, like my parents, they'll always be like, "Oh, you're spending so much time on your phone. Put that thing down." So I think it's definitely kind of our kind of, I guess, we've developed this habit in our kind of generation. It's really hard what you said at at restaurants, when people are kind of, you see on their phones, and they often don't realize, because social media and posting on things like Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, it's such a big part of what we do. You'll see at restaurants, like when the minute the waiter brings in the food, or your phone automatically comes out and you just kind of there to take a picture. And that's kind of, I've noticed this with a lot of people at restaurants, because I've just been curious, and I'm just like, okay, everyone does that, it's not just me. And I think for me, I end up doing it as well, because I do kind of post pictures of what I like to eat as part of kind of content for my stories. So I end up doing that as well, but I've told myself, like, take the picture and then just post it, or just like have it saved and post it later, and then put your phone away and actually eat your meal.
That's what worked for me, because like, I'll just take a picture. I'm the same way, because I used to bartend in my youth, and I would see so many people do it that I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not. Then I left bartending, I guess, because I wasn't seeing it. Every single person that they get a plate in front of them, be it young, be it old, they would get their camera together. I was like, I'm not going to do that. And years later, I ended up doing the same thing. And I was like, dude, I do not. So now what I'll do is the same thing. I'll take a picture. I'll eat my meal with my daughter. And then sometimes I'll post it like at 10 p.m. once I'm already home. Like, people don't know you're eating it that right now or 2 hours ago. There's no timestamp on it. So I just post it, because it was like, especially I think Instagram though, or social media, brought out the aesthetics in food. Like, people played it, so because they know that plate might be shared on social media. So you want to make sure it looks worth sharing, where people ask, where did you get that from? Where are you eating? So, I mean, I guess that's a good thing, because a lot of times now I'll go eat somewhere and I'll be like, damn, dude, like, for tacos, they're plated so beautifully, like so elegantly, and you're paying $5, but yet they look presentable, they look appealing. Whereas before they would just kind of put tortilla, slap it with some meat, and like, vamonos. And now it's like, people are really stepped up, because I think part of the culture, it might be.
Yeah, definitely. Like, here we've got a huge brunch culture. So lots of cafes have like really sort of high quality photography, and they've got like huge followings on Instagram, because they just post really kind of nice, aesthetically looking desserts or brunches, whatever. So people like know to go and order that thing that they saw on Instagram.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. Anything you want to touch on? Anything you have in mind that we haven't brought up?
Not really. I mean, I think we've pretty much touched on a lot of things today, like social media, setting up healthy habits, and a bit about how to kind of survive the quarantine. I think the other advice that I would probably say is that, like, it's great to be following credible people on social media, or like whatever, I guess it is social media. I was going to say Instagram, but any social media platform that you're on. But I think it's also important to remember that, you know, following someone on social media is not the same as working with them if you were to sort of, do like the consult that you would do. So I guess doing that one-on-one consultation. So I think a lot of the times um, people might be expecting results, just because they're following some inspiration pictures or recipes from a dietitian, or someone reputable. But it's I know they shouldn't be disappointed if they're not getting that results, because you're not actually working with that person. And when you work one-on-one, I think I say, like, that's when the kind of real magic happens, because otherwise, you don't really know how to help a person without getting the context of, getting their the context of their whole life. So that's why I think it's really important to kind of also invest if someone's kind of looking to kind of get results for, I guess, specific goals that they might have, losing a certain amount of pounds, or getting, I guess, fit for a certain event. It's good to kind of invest that money, because it is part of self-care ultimately. That's how I see it. So I think it's important to kind of do that. And yeah, I guess that's kind of one way if anyone wants to see serious results. But of course, if you're just looking kind of casually to kind of help, I guess, improve your habits, then, just following someone can do the job.
Cool. Thank you. Give yourself a plug. I'll do it for you. Anika Rouf. Is it cool if I say your Instagram?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Follow her at Shenanigans of a Dietitian. The way it sounds, the way it's spelled, everything's spelled properly, no underscores, nothing like that. Shenanigans of a Dietitian. Anika, this is not a self-help podcast, but some words of wisdom for the audience. Could be related to your field, something in your life, anything you want.
I am all about quotes, but I'm just trying to think. Like, I actually love quotes so much, the fact that I have a quote book.
Oh, beautiful. Me too.
Yeah, like I love collecting quotes, and just, sometimes I just like to look at them during the day. So I'm just, I don't know, trying to think of, I think the one that I'll go with today is be kind to yourself. It's a simple one, but I think a lot of the times, especially as we were talking about not getting results, being frustrated, it's important to be kind to yourself, and, just tell yourself that you are trying. And of course, there's ways that you can change. If you're just following someone on Instagram that's not working, maybe you could invest in doing consults with someone. If you're doing consults and that person is not helping you in the way that you'd expect, you can always switch and go to a different person. So there's I guess there's ways to kind of change. So if they don't, like, a person shouldn't, I guess, put the blame on themselves and be like, I'm not doing it right. So it's, I guess, better to kind of change the mindset and be like, what could I do better, rather than being like, I'm not, I'm doing terrible, or yeah. So yeah, and I think being kind to yourself is probably really important during quarantine, because we've all kind of, I guess, lost a lot of the goals that we had, whether for this year, whether it was financial, body, like image, body related, kind of any goals that we had, it's been a huge setback for everyone. So I think that's a big one. That's what I've been telling myself lately.
That was beautiful. You did great. This was cool. Glad you came on. Her name is Anika Rouf. Find her on Instagram at the Shenanigans of a Dietitian. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. Remember, if no one loves you, Hector loves you.
Bye, Hector. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on.